Today we're talking about anger. Most women that I work with, most women that I know, can access sadness more easily than anger. And that makes sense because it feels safe, it might feel soft, less threatening, and anger doesn't feel like that. It's really common that we have an unhealthy relationship to anger, and that can manifest in a few ways. So either you have a story that you're not allowed to be angry because it's bad or scary or it's not allowed, and so we suppress our anger, and that tends to harbor in the body as resentment or bitterness. And then there's another side of it where we feel like a boiling pot that is always about to tip over. The water is always boiling, and just one thing triggers you, and all of a sudden you're lashing out or feeling incredibly mad or incredibly frustrated. And part of you might know, I shouldn't be feeling this worked up about this small thing, but I am, and I don't understand. And that can just affect your day-to-day. If you're working and your computer's being slow, and you're feeling super mad, or your food delivery place got it wrong and you lose your mind. Might be giving personal examples. So for me, I held a lot of frustration in my body, and I didn't necessarily feel very disconnected from my anger. I actually felt like I could verbally vocalize when I was mad. Sometimes that would come through yelling, although that's something that I really try and move away from now. I don't yell in my current relationship. As an adult, I really try to find some healthier communication styles, but I felt connected to my fight response. So the first question that I have for you is, do you feel connected to your fight response? Do you feel the fire that can turn on in your body in some situations? The answer might be yes, too much, yes, I do, or no, not at all. Sometimes I hear women say that they're not an angry person. And while that can definitely be true, my next question is, are you not angry, or is your body not capable of being angry? Actually, the better question is does your body not feel safe enough to be angry? Because what we actually want is a body that is capable of holding and expressing anger in a healthy way. If we can't feel connected to our anger or our fierceness, then there is a chance that our nervous system is in a freeze response when it should be in a fight response. And depending on where you are in your spiritual journey, your inner work journey, you may have heard the term sacred rage. And sacred rage is pointing to the importance of anger. An example that's often given is the fierce protection that comes through a mother when her child is at risk. So if you've ever seen a situation where maybe like the dad made a poor decision, or the child is at risk of in any way, the woman quickly can become quite angry and attacking, and also very strong. And that's important. We need that fierceness and that fight to be able to flow through our body in the case of when we need to protect a child and also protect ourselves. But when we're little, we don't have the physical strength to protect ourselves, and that is sometimes where the suppression of anger in the body begins. There might have been a moment in your childhood where you were mad at someone, but because you physically knew you didn't have the strength to fight, it made more sense to fawn, to shut down, to freeze, or to flight. So to remove yourself from the situation by walking away or running away or going to your room, instead of honoring what your body wanted, which was to go into anger or a fight response. It was more safe for you to choose a different way. But then you're starting to learn that that other way is what you should be doing in order to keep yourself safe. So when you become an adult who can communicate better and physically manage situations better, although as a woman this is continuously a risk because we're generally not as strong as a potential man who may be wanting to hurt us. So we continue to have these reasons not to go into anger and go into fight. There might also be a story of women who get angry are bitches, or women who get angry are too defensive, or you shouldn't get angry. This is another interesting thing to explore. And what we're here to do is to explore your relationship to anger through this conversation. So to this point, what I want you to ask yourself is, how do I feel when I see an angry woman? And just notice how that feels. What's your immediate thought? What judgment might come up towards an angry woman who's like yelling, losing her mind? Is there a judgment? Wow, she's like out of control, or she's crazy. Does that judgment sound like yours? Does it sound like something you heard come out of one of your parents' mouths? Is it because of what we've seen on TV? So just thinking, a judgment I have about angry women is, they need to calm down, or they're going to get in trouble. They're going to get hurt if they do that. I know I have this response in my body when I'm watching a movie and there's a woman who starts screaming into a man's face. I think, oh my God, he's gonna hit her. And that's never something that I've witnessed in my real life. That's never something that's happened to me, luckily. But there's something within my body that's saying, no, you're risking yourself by doing this. You have to be careful. Don't do that. Don't yell. Don't get in his face. You're gonna get hurt. So even though that isn't even my direct experience, I've had enough evidence of seeing it literally just through movies and TV shows that it's taught me, and my survival response is that that's not a safe behavior. And a second interesting part of this would be to consider for yourself, how do I feel when I see an angry man? Do you feel like you need to run away? Maybe you feel the opposite. Maybe you feel like you need to solve his problem. Maybe there's a part of you that actually wants to approach him and see if you can fix the situation or calm him down. Maybe the belief is that angry men are addicts, or maybe part of your system responds with, oh, did I do something wrong? Am I going to get in trouble here? It's incredibly fascinating, the thoughts that we have in our subconscious that are kind of hidden in there, that we don't realize that this is how we feel about these topics until we slow down enough to explore it. So when we experience A, the conditioning of being told that we shouldn't express anger, and then B, situation after situation after situation where our boundaries have been crossed, where we have been people-pleasing and giving from a place where we didn't really have capacity and our needs aren't being met, this resentment starts to build. Both of these things are storing this energetic response that is anger, this chemical release in the body. And that can manifest as tension in your neck and shoulders, in your hips. It can manifest as a disconnection from your womb space, not feeling connected to your pelvic muscle, vagina, uterus, womb, this whole area. It can manifest as headaches and also this short fuse experience. So as I said, my wish for you is to start to feel where you're at as far as your connection to anger goes. And then also consider moving it out of your body. And I made something for you for this. Within my Becoming Secure membership, there's a training specifically around what it looks like to release anger from your body in a healthy way. It gives 5 different examples because different people have different things that feel natural for them to use. And that community space also has a whole library of guided practices, longer form teachings. There's live calls happening in there. And also for some of the podcast episodes, there are corresponding exercises. So like I said, there is this somatic guidance video where you learn these different ways to release anger from your body. And then there's also going to be some journal prompts in there for you. But if you just think of a child knows how to move their anger. They fearlessly throw a temper tantrum, or they stomp their feet, or they squeeze their fists. And at some point we were told we need to grow up and not do that anymore. And that's going to be the point where the energy didn't get to move anymore. And what's super interesting, kind of a side note, is that when that happens to boys and they don't have a place to move that energy, some patterns that we start to see is that showing up as ADHD diagnosis or ADHD, because all of a sudden now that boy is forced to sit still when he has so much energy, regardless of anger. And just something to consider about how that shifts how we're able to move our energy. So now the child's been told not to express this way anymore, and now what do we do? Maybe you still remove yourself from the situation. Maybe now you choose crying instead, or maybe you just feel really mad and you feel like you can't tell anyone about it. And this part of you, this inner child within you now is feeling deeply alone, not connected, not seen, not validated in her anger. And if this has resonated with you so far and you can say, yeah, I feel like I have some suppressed anger, then your practice is to validate your anger. You don't need to know what you're mad about. It doesn't matter if you're mad about not getting the birthday party that you wanted. If that's the energy that's stored in your body, that's the energy that wants to move. And in order to move it, what I would suggest is that if you notice it's coming up, that is the time to move it. So go into the school community. It's on a platform called School. It's called Becoming Secure. Learn those 5 exercises. And then when you're feeling connected to this emotion, see how much you can actually move it out of your body in order to create space. And yes, in there, I'm going to be inviting you to hit a pillow against the wall or scream into a pillow, because this energy actually has to move. That's like so much of the somatic work is actually moving the energy. We can't just think our way out of being angry because it's in the body. And I'm sure you've already heard about the book, The Body Keeps the Score, which is essentially talking about all these things. You don't need to read the book. It's very dense and heady, but it's in your body. Once you do one of these practices a few times, you'll start to naturally reach for it. This is honestly something that I did often in my adult life for a year when I was working with this, because I was holding anger in my body and it was causing so much pain in my shoulder. There was frustration held there, and I would much rather let it move through me through practices than keep it stored in my body, or let it be like the boiling pot effect where little things make me so mad that just shouldn't make me as mad. And I think I mentioned this in the practice video, but in Eastern medicine and Chinese medicine, they also speak about anger being stored in the liver. So there's a really interesting connection between having anger issues, let's call them, or suppressed anger, and also liver issues. So if you already had any experience with your liver, then that might be something to consider. Just saying it just in case it connects the dots for you as you are listening. And if we think of anger as fire, it's keeping fire in the body, which can cause heat in the body and inflammation in the body. And if you've ever studied your Ayurvedic type and you are Pitta, this maybe is a topic for a niche amount of people listening, but Pitta is kind of associated as the fire type. So a Pitta person already has fire. You might already associate yourself as a fiery person. Maybe you have a lot of fire in your astrology chart, however you see it. So that fire is sort of, it needs a pathway to move out of you. And if it doesn't have that, it's going to create tension or pressure or stress or inflammation. And I hope that gives you enough reasons. All of this gives you enough reason to explore your relationship to anger and find some ways to move it through you. So thank you for listening. And of course, I love to read any feedback you have on this episode in the comments. So drop me a line and I will get back to you. Thanks so much for being here.